Rich Hayden. I own Virtual Reality Racing Club. We're here at Goodwood Festival of Speed. I'm here with Purple Sector Performance, which is a race driver training, all levels, club championship, all the way up to Le Mans level. What we do is we help them out with race simulation and driver coaching, and we do that using our SimRace Pro simulators, which you see behind me. They're really high-level simulation. We use virtual reality to make sure that the immersion for the driver is as best as it could be, and giving them the accuracy to be able to follow the right lines and be as accurate with their driving style as they can be. One of the things we use with that is the HTC Vive Pro headset with a real high resolution. It's fantastic for driver training. It's the only way to drive a racing simulator. The average speed improvement or time improvement for a driver, a pro driver, going from screens to VR, is minimum is 1 second a lap, and the average is anywhere between 1.5 and 2 seconds per lap.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the second round of the 2020 Virtual Reality Racing Club Touring Car eSeries, brought to you in association with MSL Motorsport Consultancy and HeatingShop.ie. My name's Alex Goldschmidt, your official commentator for the series, and I'm pleased to have some company. Martin Jones, one of the directors from MSL Motorsport Consultancy, joins me this evening. Martin, how are you? Thank you for joining us.
Great to be here, Alex. Yeah, good form, thanks. The weather here is pretty much like Belgium should be, so yeah, it's good to be back at Zolder. Been here a couple of times in the past, and yeah, one of the great circuits, as we know.
Indeed, obviously Zolder built back in 1963. The current variation is the Grand Prix circuit that has been run since 1986, and is a track length of 2.492 miles, 4.011 kilometers. It's hosted the likes of the Belgian Grand Prix back in the days, The DTM, quite recently actually, it started hosting the DTM when Volker Strejček was the first ever winner in the DTM here at Zolder. Champ Car, the Blancpain Sprint Series, the FIA GT World Championship even hosted around, the NASCAR Wheel and Euro Series, W Series 2, the Masters of Formula 3 in 2006 and 2007, and also a couple of rounds of the FIA World Touring Car Championship. But Martin, we were talking briefly before we came on air, and you said to me about a wonderful experience that you had with the Ferrari's owner club here in Zolder.
Yeah, it's one of the sort of iconic Ferrari circuits, because I think in 1982, dear old Gilles Villeneuve died in a nasty qualifying accident when he ran into Jochen Mass, and it's a bit of a homage that the Ferrari club paid to the place. And I've been round there in a couple of really quick cars, and one was the Jolly Club Ecologico F40, and that grabs your attention. I can assure you.
Yeah, so a fantastic twisty circuit here. So you got corners named after the original Mr. Le Mans, Jackie X, 6-time winners of the Le Mans 24 Hours. Jochen Rindt is another driver whose name, and of course we can't forget, Martin, the wonderfully named the Villeneuve chicane too.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so glad that safety's moved on since those days. Some say at the expense of excitement, but you know what? I'd like to see him still about. You know, Jacques did well, did the name proud, and here it is at the circuit. I'm so glad you can get your name or your mouth around some of these other names that get. I'm going to test you on a couple of them.
Well, I think the funny thing is that being a multilingual commentator, you kind of, you know, my travels through Italy, Belgium, Spain, Germany, and plus speaking 3 different languages, you have to work with it, not against it. So,
I get your drift.
So as you can see, we've got some of the cars on circuit, but coming into this round, it was very interesting. We had 2 different winners at Paul Ricard last time out. Dave Marshall, who currently leads the standings, one of the 3 VRRC drivers. He's on 102 points, but comes into this round, very interestingly, with the maximum amount of success ballast. 150 kilos will be added onto his Honda Civic. Ryan Elliott in the number 2 Golf from RSR is second in the championship, 76 points to his credit, and he gets 140 kilos. So Dave Marshall won the first race ahead of Isaac Smith and Rob Butler. Isaac is currently 3rd in the championship on 74 points, level on points with Luke Whitehead, who was 3rd in the second race at Paul Ricard, which had a really interesting dynamic, because everyone was going for it, and as both myself and Martin were talking about this before going on air, that it was pretty much elbows out at Paul Ricard, but there have been a few strict penalties and talkings to for all our drivers, I think, including a couple of the drivers in the MSL Motorsport Consultancy crew, which is being led at the moment by Senna Proctor in the standings. Senna's currently P7 on 66 points. He will come into the first race with 90 kilos. He's just behind Max Coates in 6th, who's on 69 points from Elite Motorsport. Rob Butler from Suspension Secrets Esports is 5th on 72 points. Will take 110 kilos into the first race this evening. Alex Toth-Jones, one of the a driver who's just recently been confirmed to switch campaigns to the Porsche Sprint Cup GB Championship, which gets underway very shortly. I understand he's been testing in the Porsche Cayman 718 very recently, as he is currently running in P5. Qualifying will start at around about I think very shortly indeed. So we will get through the very quick 15 minutes of action here, and Jack McIntyre and Andy Mellors round out the top 10 on 58 and 54 points respectively. But Martin, really one of the dynamics about the VRRC Touring Car eSeries is that it's quite an equilibrium when you take success ballast into account.
I'm loving the fact that Rob's going to actually have that sort of balance to show what he can do with it, because that guy is really quick.
So we are just waiting for qualifying to get underway. Virtual air temperature is 20 degrees Celsius with the sunshine ablaze here in Zolder. Track temperature just a couple of degrees higher, and one of the regular haunts at the Belcar Endurance Series, amongst other things. As we have, that looks to be John Cole, and one of the VRRC cars, that is Jack McIntyre. He's currently running fourth in this session on a 1 minute 38.364, but it's Chris Smiley in the number 22 MSL Motorsport Consultancy Hyundai i30N TCR. He's leading the way, but by just over 0.2 of a second from that is Josh Stanton, the 99. I know that Josh wasn't able to be with us this evening last time out, but Kobe Leakins in the 44 Alfa Romeo. He's we wish him well, and we hope to see him back at Monza in just a week's time. But just your thoughts so far, Martin, by what you saw last time out when we were at Paul Ricard. I mean, it was a very tight and twisty circuit at the club circuit in Le Castellet, but very, very interesting action, wasn't it?
They enjoyed themselves, which is great, providing us with some great racing. Okay, the clerk of the course was probably not too happy, but you know, he's got his revenge afterwards. But long may it continue. Let's go racing. Let's have some fun. And,
indeed, indeed. Qualifying up very, very shortly here. So thank you very much for watching via the relevant streams, obviously through the Virtual Reality Racing Club Facebook page. Don't forget, now you might have seen a little bit of a teaser for the Touring Car eSeries cars that are being used in the championship. You can actually go out and get the mods yourselves. There's a chap by the name of Tommy78, and we will give you all the relevant information. He's been the one that's created all these lovely touring cars that you see on the left-hand side of your screen at home. And just by what we had last time out, Martin, are there any particular drivers that are sort of standing out for you as a potential dark horse this evening?
Yeah, Alex Toff Jones, Senna, and Chris.
Well, I'm sure I can
Not being
see
biased. Yeah.
Well,
I think we're at the top 10, very, very close, just looking at the practice time. So I don't see that qualifying is going to be anything other than breathtaking and close. After that, you know, the next 10 or the rest of the field aren't that far off as well. So yeah, let's have some great racing.
Indeed. So I think really I'm going to be looking at the likes of probably Luke Whitehead, who really came alive, but we're about to get things underway very shortly. So first out on track, here is Ryan Elliott, currently second in the standings, 76 points in the number 2 RSR Golf.
You know, looking at that graphic is just brilliant. Even with my poor eyesight, it's just superb. How did they do that?
I know, it's quite incredible how the sim racing world just makes things so immersive. And I've been behind the wheel of some of the simulators at Simply Race, which I'm pleased to announce, if you haven't seen the news, Simply Race is reopening from the 4th of July at 1 p.m. As Kenny Prest, the sole Peugeot 308 TCE in the field, wasn't the easiest run for Kenny last time out at Paul Ricard. So we're going to get an indication of the times. And in qualifying already, we've got Jack McIntyre in the 37 Honda Civic, top of the timesheets at the minute on a 1 minute 53.0. And the closest driver after that is the number 123, and that is of Isaac Smith from Accelerate. Here's Alex Toth Jones in the 11 Hyundai from MSL Motorsport Consultancy. Currently running P16 at the moment, but hasn't yet set a banker lap in terms of pure outright pace, which you'll start to do now as, again, we now have Ryan Elliott up in the top. Now the banker laps have been set in place, Martin, but for seeing both Elliott, Smith, now Mellors comes into P2, Jack McIntyre on a 1 minute 38.591. Some pretty impressive times, and we're only like literally a couple of minutes into qualification.
Yeah, I thought they'd be feeling the way in and just seeing what the circuit was doing, but obviously they're on it straight away.
Yep. So here's Mikko Salminen in 13th at the moment. Put in well, it was an out lap last time, so Miko will be putting the pace up as the number 99 of Josh Stanton. Now we're back in the firing line, out of the frying pan and into the fire, as they say. Kenny Press is currently running down in around 9th position at the moment, as the timing screens are updating on a regular basis. And so we'll just wait to see what the likes of Alex Toth-Jones, Max Coates, Andy Carroll as well. So Mikko Salminen goes top there by 70 thousandths ahead of Jack McIntyre. So a good run there. I mean, it's a very, very dynamic track here at Zolder, Martin. I mean, just by looking...
There's a lot of circuits which it's one of those ones where you have to be joined up, and if you mess up one of the corners, like coming out of the Jochen Rink corner, the Jackie Hicks corner, you lose the momentum on the far straight, and then you never get that back. You're struggling. So it's not all about being super quick into the corner. Sometimes you take a little bit of speed off, get the line right, and come out on the exit on the right line and the right momentum. It's very technical, lovely circuit.
So Harry Omarod in the number 77 now pulls into the pits. Here's Rich Hayden, our race director, but also likes to get in on the action as well, the man behind the Virtual Reality Racing Club. If you want to find out about the products that Virtual Reality Racing Club can provide, head to the official website of virtualrealityracingclub.com for further information. So, and
I was chatting with Rich Hayden after the race, and he said I got really duffed up. So he wasn't happy.
Yes. I think the rollover after John Cole hit the tyre barrier at Paul Ricard was definitely the moment of the series so far. But Rich, currently running in now, that was definitely a corner cut, and he goes, that was a corner.
Cursed.
I know. I was trying to look at where he was on the times, and then all of a sudden he throws a doozy and then goes off track. But I know he's currently P8 at the moment on a 1 minute 39.0. But Chris Smiley is currently leading the charge in the number 22 Hyundai for MSL Motorsport Consultancy, 1 minute 38.293, and that's pretty quick because Salminen is just over 0.2 of a second adrift. Here's Isaac Smith, who was definitely giving Dave Marshall something to think about in the first race, and was battling away with the number 66 very early on. We haven't seen Marshall down at the moment, currently languishing in E10. Here he is at the moment, 12 minutes and 51 seconds to go on the timing here for qualification. After qualifying, we will speak to our pole position driver ahead of the first of two action-packed races set to take place here at the fantastic Circuit Zolder. And thank you very much for everyone joining us here on the relevant live streams. So Dave Marshall drops to 11th as Stanton again pops up and goes just 9 1,000ths slower than Chris Smiley. Now, Martin, in qualification, it's very, very interesting to see just how much these drivers are pushing to the virtual limit of adhesion here at Zolder. But as you said, it's about getting it right, carrying the momentum through, and just making sure that you make it nice and precise rather than sort of go into it full hammer and tongs and then you compromise yourself on a lap that you think you might be 0.2 on one sector up and then you lose 4 when you make a mistake.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is a different animal, this circuit, to Paul Ricard. Track limits in Paul Ricard, there's lots of them, lots of space. Here, if you exceed a track limit, you're in on one of those Armcos very quickly, and that's not good.
So Paul Laramie touches the barrier in the Audi RS3 TCE in the number 31, last time out in the Virtual Reality Racing Club inaugural Touring Car eSeries. He was running the Honda Civic that changes machinery to Ingolstadt's finest. And again, Dave Marshall back out on circuit, hopefully looking to progress his way up the order. So at the moment, with around 11 1/4 minutes to go, we've got Chris Smiley, Josh Stanton, Mikko Salminen, and then we've got Rob Butler, Jack McIntyre, Senna Proctor, Andy Mellors, Rich Hayden, and then we have got Luke Whitehead and also the number 123 of Isaac Smith rounding out the top 10, just separated by nigh on 9/10 of a second at the moment, but the closest of the close competitiveness of this field is quite literally showing as Harry Omerod is only 1.2 seconds off of the pole position lap time at the moment. But Chris looking pretty good, Martin. But however, Stanton, Salmon and McIntyre, Proctor and et al. Could really factor in as the track evolves over the next 10 or so minutes through qualifying.
Yeah, it's a good mix of races and sim races here, because the couple of times I've watched the sim races have been the quality of the field. But I think the real world races are actually getting used to the sims now. I was talking to Alex about the sim and how he got on with it, and he said, well, the only thing I miss is the feel of the car through my backside. That's how good these sims are.
Yeah, I think because you can get a lot of them where they're costing tens of thousands of pounds, where you actually get the full motion like you do in, like, say, a state-of-the-art F1 sim. Let's take, for instance, Aston Martin Red Bull Racing, a gyroscopic simulator, state-of-the-art, where you can really feel everything through the seat of your pants, as David Coulthard would always say when he was in a Formula One car in DTM back in a few years ago. But it's quite interesting how they're able to the skills are transferable. We've seen it with drivers like Jan Mardenborough, who won GT Academy back in 2011, and now he's a superstar in Japan with Nissan at Super GT. Some of the people that have run in Gran Turismo, I think Igor Fraga from Brazil, who speaks fluent Japanese. He's running in Formula Regional Europe last year and came third overall in the standings, and that's where Jamie Chadwick from W Series has now gone. So it just goes to show that you can transfer those skills, like you say, about that very good point you put across about Alex Toth-Jones there, Martin, about how you can transfer the skills from virtual to real life.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the sims now are that realistic that you've got to pick your line, you've got to have the entry speed right, and the tyres do go off, and you do have mechanical problems thrown into it and difficulties to deal with. So yeah, keeping it real. That was a lovely shot.
That was indeed. And
two-wheel action.
Yes, as customary when they hit the sausage curves. But someone who's been flying around the circuit, I think obviously he hasn't had an energy drink that has given him wings, but Rich Hayden has now gone top of the timesheet, so 1 minute 38.104. I don't think anyone saw that one coming, especially I think you and I, Martin.
With all due respect to him, no.
No, but that's a really good effort there.
And there's no short circuit on this. There's no shortcut. So I don't know. Well done. Absolutely brilliant.
I think but if you're a French-speaking Belgian, the first thing you probably say is chapeau. That's really about it. But here is Chris Smiley. Let's see if he has a response to Rich Hayden. So we've got just over 7 minutes and 40 left to go in this qualifying session. There's Max Coates. Good to see him up on Twitter already. And he said getting some ballast on board after a decent opening round. And he's thanked his sponsors for the continued support. Good to see Max. Max always makes an impromptu last-minute dash to the sim, ready to get ready for qualifying. So let's just keep with Chris at the moment, as he's actually dropped to third, as Jack McIntyre has now got past Rich Hayden for provisional pole with around 7.25 minutes to go, 1 minute 38.061. And that's the good thing about track evolution, Martin, because as these drivers are pounding their way around the circuit, it's going to be rubbering in, and it's going to make for some interesting times towards the end of qualifying, but then also the racing for race 1 and 2. The track's going to consistently evolve, and with dry temperatures, this is really going to help some of the drivers to sort of eke out that little bit of an advantage.
Yeah, it's definitely coming back to them, the circuit. As you said, it is rubbering in. It's obviously been green. Now we're seeing some fantastic times.
And speaking of which, yep, he's back there at the top of the timesheets. Chris Smiley in the 22 MSL Motorsport Consultancy Hyundai i30 goes quickest by... Oh, now, that was not what he wanted in qualifying, was it? Oh, dear. No, sorry, what was that? I didn't quite catch that. That was out of the corner of my eye. As I was saying, Chris Smiley in the 22 MSL Motorsport Consultancy Hyundai i30 goes quickest by 0.277 of a second. 1 minute 37.784. So now Chris is the first one to go sub 138 around the circuit here. And that's ahead of Jack McIntyre, who's now on your screen, and who's just been being followed by Isaac Smith in the Accelerate i30N. And McIntyre looked to get some track position. And this in the, well, it looks like they're going into the pits now to get themselves ready and steeled and provide all caution to the wind in the last 5.5 minutes. Rich Hayden doing a great job, still keeping it in 3rd place at the moment. And he is about nearly a couple of tenths ahead of Josh Stanton and some of the drivers. There's Andy Mellors, rounding in the 92 VRRC Teenage Cancer Trust Honda Civic. So he is looking to move up a bit further up the order from being 10th in the standings, but we'll have the from everyone from 11th onwards. He will be actually the lightest car out of the top 10 in the standings, and the ballast will shift dependent on where the drivers finish for race 1, and then after race 2 we then decide that on the championship standings. So Kenny Press in the pits, Jack McIntyre in the pits. But good to see a nice variety of touring cars here as well, Martin, wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, it's great. It's I tell you, they've done a fantastic job. VRRC. It's I've really enjoyed it. Great to be involved with them as well. I really enjoy their enthusiasm, and they saw an opportunity and they've jumped on it, and let's keep it going. I think looking forward to Winter Series as well.
I think that will go double for me too. So being able to have the opportunity to commentate on this series is absolutely fantastic, and to have you alongside me this evening is a pleasure and an honour. To be completely honest, I mean, I've been in motorsport for coming up to a decade now, and then to see the list of achievements that who you've worked with over the last 20 plus years is just absolutely astounding, especially one driver that secured the 1992 Formula One world title and then went over to IndyCar in 93 and did the back-to-back, Mr. Nigel Mansell as well. So you worked with him for 10 years, if memory serves me correctly.
Yeah, a friend, and worked with him for quite a long time. Had a great time with him. He is just the most phenomenally brave driver I think I've ever seen. Some would argue not the most smoothest or whatever, but when he was racing, these cars had sort of 1,300 brake horsepower in qualifying trim with no power steering, stick shift. I remember the amount of times when he took his glove off after the race on the gear, the gear change thing, it was bleeding. It was just incredible. He was so strong as well. Amazing. Good guy.
And hence why the Italians and the Tifosi called him Il Leone, because he had that never gave up spirit.
Just loved him. The Italians just went mental for him every time. It was, that was an interesting period. I quite enjoyed the Ferrari days. It was, the history. And the conversation prior to him signing was basically, every English racing driver has to drive for Ferrari at some stage. It'd be interesting to see what Lewis does. It's, that's he's. I don't think it's over for him yet, but we'll see.
Indeed. As Formula One gets underway at the Red Bull Ring in Austria for a double header.
It's good to see that back.
Oh yes, I think everyone's absolutely buzzing that Formula One is back. But also the good thing is that people will say that sim racing will never replace real racing, but it has a place alongside it. As now we go into the last couple of minutes of qualification here at Circuit Zolder. And at the moment it's been a difficult one for Ryan Elliott. He was initially top of the timesheets. No one seems to have an answer for Chris Smiley at the moment. Jack McIntyre rounds out the top two. Rich Hayden in third, ahead of the number 99 of Josh Stanton, with Mikko Salmon and Senna Proctor in P6. Then it is Rob Butler in the 74. Dave Marshall, Alex Toth-Jones and Andy Mellors, all covered by just under 1.2 seconds. Looks like there was a bit of a lock-up there going through one of the corners. And that might have been Rob Butler who pulled off to the side to let the other traffic go through. And this, Martin, is where they really, really have to put it together. I mean, just put it on the perfect lap. I mean, Chris has already done a lot of the hard work, but it's now about who responds, who crosses the line before the checkered flag is brought out.
Yeah, I tell you, it's all important to be on the front row of this grid, this circuit. It's a short sprint down to the first chicane. I think there's going to be a bit of carnage there. So somebody's got blocked there. I think, oh, that was Alex. Yeah, it's all important. The ballast has really caused havoc here by the look of it, but yeah, it should be good fun. Looking forward to the race.
So just 20 seconds to go in qualification, and Chris Smiley on provisional pole at the moment as Senna Proctor, being followed by Alex Toth-Jones. And this series, both MSL Motorsport Consultancy teammates as they cross the line with around 13 seconds to go. Whitehead goes up to P9.
Yeah, it'd be interesting if they can work together now on this lap and get it dialed in. Bit of drag somewhere.
Yeah, I think probably when they come through the Lucien Bianchi bocht down to the small chicane, or kleine chicane as they call it in Zolder, there's so many different. It's really, really funny that coming across a completely different language, as I've been attempting to learn Dutch a little bit unsuccessfully at the moment.
I'd be really impressed if you can do that.
Well, if I can learn German, which is my second sort of like major language, being part German by descent, it's quite similar, but there's a lot of that kind of stuff as well. But that's it for qualification. Looks like Chris Smiley has picked up provisional pole. He's already in the pits. I want to see if Jack McIntyre and Josh Stanton might respond here. Here is Josh in the 99 Hyundai i30N. So nicely done on the brakes there.
Yeah, that's neat. It's very tidy.
That's very, very clean indeed there. No excess in terms of the corner cutting. So comes through across the line. Let's see. Does he improve? Oh, he goes close, but not close enough here.
That was so close.
Yeah, so now we wait on now Ryan Elliott. He's not had a good time. I think he's called it a day, and that will put him down in 14th position. So, ladies and gentlemen, for qualifying, it is Chris Smiley in number 22 MSL Motorsport Consultancy Hyundai i30 that takes pole position here at Circuit Zolder, as Josh Stanton takes P2, Jack McIntyre, Rich Hayden, Mikko Salminen rounding out the top three, all covered by just over 5.5 tenths of a second. Senna Proctor takes 6th place ahead of Rob Butler. Dave Marshall, the current championship leader at the moment, will have 8th place to his credit with a full complement of ballast, 150 kilos, ahead of Alex Toth-Jones and Luke Whitehead that round out the top 10. But a pretty impressive performance, wouldn't you say there, Martin, from Chris?
Very impressed. That is a cracking lap. And he was consistent throughout. He was just finding his way. Where can I brake later? Because there's a couple of these chicanes that there's two ways of doing it: conservative or flat out. And I think he's found a flat out one, because that's obviously where he's got some advantage. Very close. Glad to see Alex has popped up there in 9th. He must have been having some issues because he is ultra competitive, and he wouldn't have liked languishing at the back for a little while there. So yeah, my prediction, top 5. I think the winner's going to come from there.
Yeah, I think I pretty much agree with you. But as they say, times are for show, points are to go, and that's what we're going to find out very, very shortly in our first of 2 races here at Circuit Zolder. We'll try and see. I'm not too sure if we might be able to get a word with Chris, but if we do, well, it looks like we're going trackside to start the race. They are lined up on the grid here at Circuit Zolder ahead of a 20-minute encounter, and it's going to be very, very interesting indeed. So we will we've got 5 minutes, sorry about that, but just really the spread of the field, we've been talking about this quite a bit here, Martin, that Chris being a real world driver, obviously with BTC Racing as they're set to get underway in August with their championship, obviously teammates for both with Tom Chilton and then also Michael Crees, and then Senna being lined up with Chris at Accelerate. I mean, it's looking to be an interesting British touring car season this year, isn't it?
And they're so keen to get on with it. It'd be like caged lion's been let loose. So I think our friendly sort of track marshal, he's going to be quite busy.
I couldn't agree with you anymore there.
They're exchanging pixels on this, but it'll be paint out there. So great to have motorsport back. Really sad, about what's happened. We've had to take our time and do it properly, in restrictions in place, and be sensible. It's with being sensible, we can get back to racing, which we love. So looking forward to this. This is going to be great. There's that first corner. That's really tight. But you've got to get the Bianchi corner right, coming out onto the back straight. If somebody can make a break there, first lap, I think that could just break the back fairly quickly. Let's see. Not long now.
Indeed, just around 3 or so minutes to go until race 1 here at the Virtual Reality Racing Club Touring Car eSeries, being hosted at the fantastic Virtual Circuit Zolder, and brought to you in association with MSL Motorsport Consultancy and heatingshop.ie. What a fantastic circuit we have, and what a fantastic grid we have in prospect. 19 cars set to get into battle very, very shortly. Join myself and Martin in just a moment. Right, so we're about to get things underway here for the first of 2 races here at Circuit Zolder for the second round of the Virtual Reality Racing Club Touring Car eSeries. The lights are on the gantry, and we are off and away. Looks like we have had an issue for Chris Smiley. Reference some sim problems as they head down to the first corner for the first time. Is Jack McIntyre in the lead. A bit further back, I think I just saw that Salmonen and Stanton were side by side. There's John Cole in the Bod Racing Honda Civic, as McIntyre now gets a little bit of an advantage, probably 4 to 5, maybe 6 car lengths ahead of Salmonen, and I think that is Andy Carroll that is now going out alongside the Golf.
He had a great start, Andy Carroll.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant start there. There's John Cole. He's currently down in 12th position as someone's gone very, very wide there. Now, is that That is Dave Marshall, I think, that's dropped down the order. He's in around about 17th position. So Martin already, the success ballast for him not quite working the way that he'll want, but if he doesn't get in the top 10 in this race, he'll have an opportunity to strike back quite hard in race 2.
Yeah, it's some question the ballast thing, but it certainly keeps the season going. Oh, I got a bit busy in there.
Yep, so Salmonen now on the back bumper of quite a few other cars, and I think Senna Proctor's in the mix there too. So in many respects, that's going to be incredibly exciting up all the way up and down the order. That is the battle for That's for P3. Salmonen goes grass tracking like a Finnish rallycross star, and then manages to get past by Senna Proctor, and alongside him looks to be. I think that is Alex Toth-Jones. Yes, that is, and Isaac Smith just not that far behind. Andy Mellors just away from there. Salmonen trying to go alongside Senna Proctor, but then has Alex Toth-Jones to his left as they go down into Ellister. As Salmonen sweeps up the inside of Senna Proctor to retake second position. Oh, gets a bit of tank slapper. Oh my goodness me, Senna Proctor has to avoid, and that allows Alex Toth-Jones to go round the outside of the Golf. And has he made it through into second position? He's kept it planted around the outside. Brilliant work there by Alex Toth-Jones to get past Mikko Salmonen for position, as Rob Butler looks to have jumped up into second place.
Yeah, great move again. Great move by Alex. He's thought that one through. Oh no, here we go.
Oh dearie me, that was Isaac. That was Isaac Smith on Mikko Salmonen, I believe, there into the corner, and Salmonen becomes
not like that.
No, that's going to be investigated, I'm sure, as Salmonen drops down into P11. There is Isaac Smith, and he's closing on Alex Toth-Jones. 17 minutes and 20 seconds plus an additional lap here at Zolder, and Butler's already got a 2.5 second deficit to McIntyre, who's stretching away an absolutely brilliant lead, as Isaac Smith trying to wrestle with the I-30 all over the back bumper of Alex Toth-Jones here for the final step on the rostrum. And just behind them is Andy Mellors. Then it's Senna Proctor. Then we got Elliott, Cole, Marshall and Omerod rounding out the top 10. But already, Jack McIntyre is setting brilliant fast laps. 1 minute 45.455 from the 37 VRRC Honda Civic driver. But Andy Mellors closing on the battle for P3 now, with Isaac Smith just up ahead. And he looks towards the inside of the chicane there, Martin, but can't quite get through. And as you say, you've got to keep it a bit neat and tidy here.
Yeah, definitely. McIntyre got a great start, broke away. The others were squabbling, and he nailed it, the Bianchi curve, and just up on that back straight. Absolutely nailed it. Should be interesting to see how far away he gets, or if he tyre management quite possibly might come into it. But great start from McIntyre.
Yeah, so he's opened up a gap of nearly 3 seconds at the moment, but so Mellors still keeping in striking distance. I wouldn't say literally, I'd say figuratively on Isaac Smith for P4, and Smith is trying to close back down onto Toth-Jones, who now has about a second advantage over the 123, and just behind Mellors. Not too far behind, around 0.3 of a second behind, is Senna Proctor, and Proctor is closing. That car looks to be, now a bit of a mistake there. Lock up and bumping over the sausage curbs on the inside of the chicane there from Isaac Smith. That has allowed Andy Mellors to close up, and Senna Proctor will be waiting in the wings like a caged animal to try and do his best to move up the order. Looks like Ryan Elliott's made some good progress, and John Cole looking to secure a top 10 finish. Just up ahead of Whitehead, who is down in 15th. He's got Kenny Press in the Peugeot just behind. That's the battle for 15th position. Senna Proctor really looking quite menacing here, as is Andy Mellors on the back bumper of Isaac Smith. And through these chicanes, Martin, it's about finesse, it's about precision. And the way that Isaac Smith went through the small chicane, that was definitely, I'm going to try and throw the car in and see what happens and hope it sticks.
Yeah, exactly. And he's I've seen some great lines from these guys. They've obviously put a lot of sim work in before the meeting. I was a little bit surprised that he's got away. He's over 3.5 seconds ahead. That's some great driving. Obviously just focusing on where he's going, not looking behind, which is always a bonus.
Very much the case. It's always blinkers on, a bit like a pedigree racing horse, and looking ahead. But the battle for fourth place now really is heating up between Messrs Smith, Mellors and Proctor. Just over 14 minutes plus an additional lap still to go here, as the sunshine continues to serenade us here in the lovely Belgian countryside. But I must be honest here, Martin, that Ryan Elliott, whilst Smith, Mellors and Proctor are battling away, he is starting to slightly close up in some respects, isn't he?
Yeah, you see that, and these guys are going to have a proper old squabble in a few laps' time. It's going to be quite interesting. Alex is just, see how Alex has been allowed to get away from them a little bit, because they're lining each other up for a move. So yeah, it's all good stuff.
And Mellors is eyeing up once again Isaac Smith through this chicane, and Smith not making it any easier. But Jack McIntyre, he's just comfortably moving away, and he's just set the fastest lap of the race, a 1 minute 38.569. Alex Toth-Jones has now got a pretty good gap between himself and Isaac Smith, to the tune of around a second and a half. In many respects, a bit of a lock up there again from Isaac Smith. You can tell he's really pushing and trying to keep Mellors at bay, but Mellors, I think, is doing the very diligent thing here. He's just waiting and just biding his time to see when Smith makes an unforced error, not from being sort of psyched out, if you will, because the mind games, as we both know, Martin, quite clearly happens in motorsport.
Oh, absolutely. I remember the mind games between Mansell and Piquet. That was something to behold. Piquet was a master at it, and it was quite sporty at times, that's for sure.
So we go on board with Andy Mellors in the 92 Honda Civic. You can just see how much different input. He's making it nice and clean, whereas Isaac Smith is doing the...
he's bouncing it around.
Yeah, he's doing it like someone who's trying to rotate the car in, and that's what you try and do in a touring car, especially when it's front-wheel drive. You have to try and rotate the car in, and it's not quite easy because the power of the steering and the engine is mainly over the front axle, Martin. So it adds a different dynamic. There are some drivers that can work with that style, but then there are others who think, well, I'm more of a person that likes to just throw it in.
Yeah, well, your nose is trying to push you all the time, which is quite a weird sensation.
So we're fast approaching, around about 90 seconds to go until we hit half-time here. At the moment, Jack McIntyre has a considerable lead over Rob Butler. Alex Toth-Jones rounds out the top three. Then it is Isaac Smith who's keeping at bay Andy Mellors and Senna Proctor in the battle for 4th, 5th and 6th respectively. Then it is Ryan Elliott in 7th, John Cole in 8th. Then we've got Dave Marshall in 9th, and Mikko Salminen, who was running quite high up the order until Isaac Smith had a little bit of a bone to pick. Well, not a bone to pick, but more a word to say, and then a panel got involved too. And that was on the receiving end, I think. So very much the case that we've got, alongside them, we've got Omerod having a good performance in the 77 Hyundai in 11th, ahead of Andy Carroll. Then we've got Josh Stanton, Max Coates in 14th, Luke Whitehead, Kenny Press, Rich Hayden, and Paul Laramie.
Here we go. It's a brave move around the outside there.
Oh. Now that was, and he made it. Nice work there by Dave Marshall. He got it done.
What a great move.
And that was through Butter, I believe, through into the Villeneuve chicane. So he managed to keep that one planted. Now, Dave Marshall is one of the multiple drivers that have been taking part in the Mini Challenge UK eSeries, which recently had its previous round, I think, this past Saturday. There's another one coming up this coming Saturday as well. So... been doing quite well in that, and that's another championship that MSL are in some ways involved with, and it's really good to see that the VRRC have taken on board Mini Challenge UK, which now becomes part of the TOCA package for 2020, but then also the Touring Car eSeries, Martin.
Yeah, I love it. The racing in the minis has been fantastic. This is another dimension. Just look at the graphic there. That's so realistic. It's such a shame that Chris Smiley had some technical issues and couldn't be in the middle of this, because I think how Jack McIntyre's disappeared. He's now 4 seconds up the road. I think Chris would have given him a run for his money today. Real shame.
very much the case. I think he could have probably been on course for a very, very, not an easy victory, but a very hard-fought one, as, again, Miller's looking up the inside of Smith, and the rear end just bouncing away like a good one, coming through that wonderful chicane there. It's just so easy how much commitment. Is Senna Proctor looking to go up the inside of Andy Mellors before the chicane, makes the move stick up into P5, goes Senna Proctor. That's a great move, very, very case in point of what Dave Marshall just did a moment ago.
Yeah, he'd lined it up from the entries to the main straight there, or the straight. It just sort of got a hold of it, hooked it up, got the momentum. These cars are very close together, very performance-wise. Nailed it. Great move.
So Senna Proctor will now try and break away from Andy Mellors, as now the battle for 7th position. Dave Marshall is not letting the 150 kilo success ballast he wants it to be a help, not a hindrance, and for some reason he's really got some pace alive in that Honda Civic, and that's come a bit more alive in the second half of the race here, as he's closing on Ryan Elliott for 7th position as they go down into Arisa.
I hope they stay with us, and you'll see what I mean with the line coming out. So that didn't work. But,
yeah, no, there we go. So through Kanalbocht, and then Lucien Bianchi Bocht, and then we're going to head up to the...
Yeah, here we go.
Yeah, so this is where the move has really been happening. And he's going to just try and get onto the tail end. So he's got the slipstream here, and now they're going to go through to the Kleine chicane. And yeah, there he goes. He's pulling out already. Hasn't got the affordability there to get the... No, but you can just see how much smoother Dave Marshall is, and he's going to get the run going through to the Villeneuve chicane. Nice battle here, as let's see if he can do that move again. Not this time around, but I think he's possibly got another lap or two here, Martin, where he can really, really size him up, and he might get it.
Here we go. Just stay with it.
Yep,
another one around the outside.
Yep, that was Josh Stanton on Luke Whitehead there for P13. As Marshall's always made it happen. Well, has he? No, it's side by side, a bit of paddle rubbing. So he got past initially, but then straight away Ryan Elliott, because he's effectively got 10 kilos less on his car than Dave Marshall has, Martin, and that could be the overriding factor, that Marshall really has it planted and has some really good straight line speed, especially now as we go on board with Dave Marshall down the main straightaway, down towards Erster.
And he's super late on them, Dave Marshall, and just stay with it. Getting the momentum now to the Bianchi corner, coming up. Oh, unlucky. Great try.
Yep, I think he's trying for it again, though.
He's not giving up.
No, that's one thing we know about Dave Marshall. He's got it. He's got him up the inside. That's a brilliant move there through the Lucien Bianchi Bocht down towards the Kleine chicane. That was brilliant. That was absolutely...
He's been lining it up for 2-3 laps, and delivered it.
You know what the interesting thing, though, is look who's behind. John Cole and Mikko Salminen. So now the battle for 7th is going to be contested between 4 cars, because for the last few laps, as Ryan Elliott right on the back bumper through the Villeneuve chicane, through into Terlamen. So Marshall now trying to break away, but the ballast this is where it could really hurt Dave Marshall, because now it's one thing to get the place, it's another thing to keep it all together, because as we've just seen coming through shots, Senna Proctor still being hounded by Andy Mellors, and that's over 5th.
Well, he's basically, with the ballast he's got, he's driving around with a passenger.
Yes, a very hefty one, probably maybe 2. Obviously, 150 kilos worth of ballast. That's quite a lot. I mean, especially when you look at how the BTCC ran the regulations for quite a number of years, where they were running probably about 60 or so kilos, and here it's like over 2.5 times that. So Mellors closing on Proctor once again. The pair are just 0.3 of a second apart.
So he's basically taking the family out for a drive then, with that weight.
Yeah, the wife and 2 kids. That's a really good analogy there, I must admit. I'd never thought of it. But yeah, I just think that the good thing about the ballast, as we were saying, it is a bit of an equilibrium setter, but also it helps for these really great contained battles that we're seeing as Andy Mellors now trying to go up the inside of Senna Proctor now for P5. Is he going to make it through? He does. Now, obviously, he's just gone into that. I'm not too sure if he went a bit too hot into that first part of the chicane there, Martin.
It was interesting. I don't think there was a certain amount of bravery or lack of control, but I'll give him bravery.
That's very, very good. I mean, unless you ask Alex Wurz, when he was famously quoted in the WEC as saying, "Well, I've just run out of talent," and that was quite a few years. That was when he was racing with Toyota, and for someone of Alex's caliber to admit that, that's quite heartwarming. I mean, I met Alex last year in Sarno for the Rotax Max Challenge Grand Finals because his eldest son Charlie, who's racing in Adria this weekend at the WSK karting event. Alex is he's the tallest guy you could ever probably look up to. So I felt like Richard Hammond out of the early Top Gear days. But yeah, the nicest guy you could ever want to meet. And I've met Charlie, I've met Oscar, I've also met Julia, his wife, and they're just such lovely people. But it's really good to see that it's always the ones that are very, very calm and docile, and they really, really do come alive when they get behind the wheel. And so many nice people that race in motorsport competitively, as we're getting into the last 3 minutes plus an additional lap on board now with Josh Stanton, who was closing on Harry Omerod, as John Cole is being hounded by Mirko Salminen. This is for P9. And they've got Brian Elliott, who has been dropped by about 2.6 seconds. So Marshall really keeping it neat and tidy, allowing himself the opportunity to have what will effectively be 80 kilos that Alex Toth-Jones in P3 has been running with all race long after the championship standings. Salminen up the inside of John Cole. Oh, a little bit of a door panel clash there. But I think, Salminen had the opportunity and the gap was there, so he went for the move. And John Cole, if he's gone a bit too furiously into that first part of the chicane, if he's turned in on him, then that's not going to be looked at favourably. Oh no, he tags him.
It's ending in tears. Oh dear. Whoops.
That's not what we wanted to see. And Mirko Salminen again being the brunt of impact after two respective issues. Here is Chris, funnily enough. So Chris has got back up and running again. So for race 2, he will have no ballast. He's currently running in what is effectively P19.
I'd love to see him put a fastest lap in, which you just get something from it, because he would have had the pace to be right at the top of this.
Well, Chris actually got 6 points as a result of qualifying earlier on. So if he puts in the fastest lap, he'll get 12 points alone, and that's without even getting into the top 10 or into the points scoring positions here. So we've got just over a minute and a quarter left to go, plus an additional lap. And Jack McIntyre, when they say that you're not commentating about the leader, you know he's doing a very, very good job indeed. A lead of over 5.5 seconds ahead of Rob Butler. Alex Toth-Jones running at the top 3. Here we are on board of Andy Mellors, who is now about 0.7 of a second ahead of Senna Proctor, who gets a bit braver on the brakes from around the 75-metre board, the 75-metre mark, through the chicane there. Through Sacrament Schelling, through into Buta, and then into the Villeneuve chicane.
You really get the impression of speed there. Phenomenal graphic.
Indeed. I mean, just to think you can have pretty good onboards here in the sim racing world, and just by what we're seeing on Andy Mellors' Honda Civic is just absolutely brilliant, because you can then measure, in some respects, how Senna Proctor is actually braking into the corners, and he's using Andy Mellors as a yardstick, effectively. So where Andy might brake at 100 metres, Senna might go, well, actually, I've got a bit more of a run. I could probably brake from 80 and still meet the apex when I need to.
Yeah, exactly. Look, he's just sizing it up now. Another good line there.
So that is it. Time has expired, and we are effectively on the final lap of this race. As Jack McIntyre he's in another Belgian region at the minute, because he has a lead of over 3.7 seconds over Rob Butler. There is our leader in the number 37 VRRC Honda Civic. And he's making his way down towards the far part of the circuit here. Nice and easy. through the chicane. Nice and gentle. He knows that he doesn't have to battle with anybody for position. Up through Sacrament Schelling and through into Buta and then into the Villeneuve chicane. Lovely views here that we're getting on the live stream. A big thank you to Mike Yao and Simply Race for doing so. Through into Terlamen for what is the final time, and then into Oldenburg Bocht. There's a long run down here as well. But meanwhile, Senna Proctor closing on Andy Mellors for P5 in the dying stages. So this is one battle we're really going to have to keep our eyes on. McIntyre doing the business here, as he will now head towards the Jackie X Bocht for the final time. But Proctor hot on the heels of Mellors for P5. And Isaac Smith isn't that far off either. I mean, considering the fact that they might have been pulling each other along, as this time around, it is 3 from 3 so far in the Virtual Reality Racing Club Touring Car E-Series. Jack McIntyre has taken the victory. Or is he still going? No, it's final lap. My apologies. I think I popped my... I waved the checkered flag too early there. My apologies. So Jack McIntyre, that means we've got a bit more of this... it does happen sometimes. I've had the misfortune of... the bloke on the start-finish line at Adria Karting Raceway waved the checkered flag when I said we're going on to the final lap, and he actually waved the checkered flag as I said that. That's rather embarrassing. My apologies, ladies and gentlemen, but Jack McIntyre. But this battle between Senna and Andy Martin has been really, really interesting and quite visceral as well too.
I think it's settled down now, unless there's a mistake, but it's not over until it's over, that's for sure.
Indeed, I very much agree there, but very, very shortly, I will call this correctly this time. Not often that someone like myself does that, but it does happen.
It's normally American sporting stars, isn't it, in Canada?
Oh, don't get me... I'm not going to respond to that one because I could impeach myself there quite convincingly. But very, very shortly, well, it does happen. It does happen. But, ladies and gentlemen, we are now coming towards the end of this race here at Circuit Zolder. We'll get a chat with our top three in just a couple of moments when they head onto the start-finish straight. But it's 3 from 3 here. 2 different winners at Paul Ricard. 1 now here at Zolder as Jack McIntyre wins race 1 here this evening. Very, very shortly, we will have Rob Butler, who takes another podium finish in the second successive race. Rounding it out with Alex Toth-Jones from MSL Motorsport Consultancy. Isaac Smith takes 4th, ahead of Andy Mellors. Great fights until the bitter end by Senna Proctor to take P6. Then Dave Marshall recovers up to 7th position, which will put him on 90 kilos of ballast for the reverse top 10 grid for race 2. Ryan Elliott's in 8th, Mikko Salminen in 9th, Andy Carroll in 10th, ahead of John Cole. Result for the number 302 from Bod Racing, which is emblazoned on both doors on each side of the car. Then we got Josh Stanton. Max Coates resurges back to 13th place ahead of Luke Whitehead. Rich Hayden in 15th and the fastest lap of the race hasn't gone to Chris Smiley, unfortunately, Martin. It's gone to Rich Hayden, who picks up 6 points for his troubles. Kenny Preston 16th. Harry Omerod, Paul Laramie and Chris Smiley round out the running order with... that is it for race number 1 here at Zolder. We'll be speaking to our top 3 in just a moment's time, so we'll be back in a moment. Right, ladies and gentlemen, let's have a chat with our top 3 drivers here in race 1 at Zolder. And first up, let's have a chat with our winner, our third different winner from 3 different races, Jack McIntyre. Well done, Jack. Congratulations on your win. You pretty much had it easy whilst everyone was scrapping away behind you.
Yeah, I managed to get a good start and got away and into first through turn 1, and then saw everyone dropping back behind. They were all racing, so yeah, got a bit lucky there, but just got my head down, kept the tyres well, and yeah, all turned out good.
So, I mean, this helps you obviously coming into this round P9 in the standings ahead of fellow VRRC teammate Andy Mellors. It's been quite nice to have that opportunity of having less ballast, so 80 kilos less than previous current points leader, I think, by my reckoning, Dave Marshall. But just to be able to see what it's like having clear air, it gives you an impetus for the next race, doesn't it?
It does, yeah, and I think I had a bit of an awful week last week. I didn't really have the car dialed in at all, and I don't really like the track, if I'm honest. So it was refreshing this week. I got the car really well set up, so yeah, just able to drive off and really see how the car's going to drive later on in the race as well. I've not done much long stint testing, so it was good to see the car holds up well.
Brilliant. Well done, Jack. All the very best of luck for race 2.
Cheers, mate. Thank you.
Okay, next up we will head to our runner-up here for race 2, and it's another podium appearance for Rob Butler. So, Rob, congratulations! Another podium in a second successive race. Well done.
Yeah, thank you. Race 1 seems to be working out okay. So, look out, the car was so heavy with the ballast. There was no way I was getting to Jack. You know, he drove superbly well. He was away by the time I got through into second with a little bit of squabbling on the first lap. But Alex definitely kept me honest. I seen him coming and I was trying to manage the tyre at my Delta, and thankfully I got the time right this time. But we're definitely missing a little bit of speed with the Honda this week. We've got quite a lot of understeer with the weight in, so looking forward to shedding some weight. But it looks like after that result I'll still be quite heavy for the next round.
Yeah, you'll be adding another 30 kilos to the car, unfortunately. But it is what it is, really. I mean, you know, both yourself and Jack are going to have a really tall order in the next race. But well done for another successive podium, and good luck in race 2.
Thank you.
Last but by no means least, we go to Alex Toth-Jones in the number 11 MSL Motorsport Consultancy Hyundai. Alex, great race there. Some really, really good battles, some great moves from yourself. Just tell us from your perspective how the race went.
I think at the start it was very much survival. There seemed to be a fair bit of touring car style door banging, should I say. But I managed to keep myself alive, keep myself honest, and then found myself in P3. Yeah, I was trying to catch Rob. He, with that amount of ballast in there, he did an amazing job. He was so consistent, and I just had too many mistakes in me, which is one of the reasons why I qualified a little bit further down than I planned. Just too many mistakes on my laps. But no, I'll take P3. It's definitely an improvement, and we'll see where we go with the reverse grid.
Yeah, and obviously you now gain, I think, 40 kilos on the I-30 from 90 when you came into this round. So how do you think the Hyundai is going to handle?
It's a bit stubborn with the weight. It's not as nice to drive as it was at Paul Ricard, but I feel quite good. I managed to keep the tyre quite consistent with the high fuel there, so I think coming through the pack, it's quite narrow is this circuit, so that's going to be the priority. I think the pace is all right through the race, but yeah, it's going to be tough.
Well, congratulations on your first podium in the Virtual Reality Racing Club Touring Car eSeries this time around, Alex, and good luck for race 2.
Thank you.
Really good to hear the insights from all 3 drivers, but again, the balance changes in some respects coming into race 2, with our top 3 now being the 3 heaviest cars for the reverse grid top 10 race.
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting with the grid positions now and how it pans out. It's going to be a fanatically busy first sort of 3-4 bends now. It's looking forward to it.
So again, air temperature virtually speaking at the fantastic circuit Zolder, 20 degrees air temperature, 22 degrees track temperature, and I think very shortly we'll be going racing for the second and final time this evening in Belgium. Back in a moment. Right, ladies and gentlemen, just a few more moments before we get back underway with our reverse top 10 grid race 2 here at Circuit Zolder with myself, Alex Goldschmidt, and MSL Motorsport Consultancy's very own Martin Jones. Martin, first great race that we had this evening, but we've been looking forward to the, I think the pure chaos and hopefully not mass destruction going into Aosta for the first corner, because we saw that quite a bit, a lot, as Alex Toth Jones explained in his post-race interview, that there was a lot of argy-bargy going on, and it normally does happen, a bit of paint rubbing, a bit of panel bashing. It normally is commonplace in touring cars.
Yeah, get on with it. It's there. They've got a roll cage. They've got body panels, and they're not open wheels. This is going to be a belter. I'm really looking forward to this race. This is, the first one, really enjoyed that. This is going to be something very different, because these cars are, they just want to keep going straight. You heard the top three alluding to that the cars just want to push on, and they're having to fight them. So, more ballast for the quick guys who've had the great podiums. Yeah, let's see. Looking forward to it.
So coming into this race, Jack McIntyre, our winner from race 1, has the maximum ballast applied of 150 kilograms. Then it is Rob Butler who will be laden on his Honda Civic with 140, and then Alex Toth Jones in the Hyundai as we are on the grid. I think we're about to get things underway here for race 2. And it's a reverse grid top 10. So Harry Omerod and Kenny Press look to be... I'm just waiting for things to underway here. So momentarily we will get our reverse top 10 race 2 grid, and let's see, when the lights go out, we are racing here at Zolder, and they head down to Aosta for the first time. Ryan Elliott looks to get a really good getaway as does Senna Proctor. They're 3, nearly 4 abreast going into the first corner. This is not going to end well as Chris Smiley round the outside, I think, there of Harry Omerod going into Aosta and into the Stellenbach box.
That's messy.
There's big accident. Big accident
in the background.
So, multiple cars involved. I think Andy Carroll is down there, John Cole, but Chris Smiley.
Great start from Chris.
Yeah,
he deserves some redemption from the misfortune in his first race.
Yeah, with the sim issues that he was having, but it was good to see that. But then Omerod and Hayden on the back bumper of the 22. So this is not going to be easy. But we are only less than 60 seconds in, and at the moment, Alex Toth Jones has got past Kenny Press for P12. John Cole past Josh Stanton for P14. Brian Elliott past Paul Laramie, as down at the tail end of the field. It is Isaac Smith and Andy Carroll, as they all filter their way through towards Terlaman Bocht for the first time here. And Chris now starting to get a bit of a getaway. He's got just over 3/4 of a second ahead of Harry Omerod, who is ahead of Rich Hayden, who took the fastest lap points last time out as the leaders come through. Now there's Senna Proctor, P7 just behind Mikko Salminen. Salminen was in the trenches at least 2 to 3 times last time out, so hopefully he has a bit of better run this time round. Omerod still trying to keep Rich Hayden at bay through the chicane down in the bottom right hand corner of your screen. So Salminen has Dave Marshall behind, and Marshall was pretty quick even with 150 kilos of ballast. Rich Hayden going to get past Harry Omerod, I think might have gotten past going into Aosta, or has he? He's gone round the outside. Oh no, he's thrown it off the circuit, and who else has gone with? That looks to be, I think, Luke Whitehead that's gone off the track too, and they both dropped like proverbial stones, having gone into the gravel off of Aosta on the run down to Stellenbach Bocht. So not good for Rich Hayden, who was challenging for P2 there, and that has dropped him down. Yeah, Rich was really looking planted in there on that particular occasion. But this means that Dave Marshall now has Mikko Salminen in his eye line as they go down towards the far part of the circuit, through the Kleine chicane, through the Sacrament Schelling, and then through into Butte before the Villeneuve chicane. Under the fence, and now it's lovely to see the old Martini style advertisement here as well at Zolder. I mean, Martini has been well known within motorsport through Lancia and the Group B days of rallying, and then obviously Williams Martini Racing up until quite recently in motorsport, but still has an iconic colour scheme in our hearts when it comes to racing, doesn't it, Martin?
Yeah, anybody who loves the sport loves Martini. maybe not drinking it, but certainly the image and the thoughts that it provokes and evokes. It's a great brand. But there's a few of them, like the Gulf Oil livery. That's another fantastic, iconic one.
Yeah, looks like we have got a change here, as that is Alex Toth. Now that's Harry Omerod trying to battle away with Senna Proctor, as Chris Smiley has galloped like the proverbial racing horse, and he's got a gap of 4.7 seconds after just 3.5 minutes. That's incredible pace from Chris Smiley. So Omerod is the cork in the bottle. Senna Proctor just behind Mikko Salminen and Dave Marshall. That's third, fourth, and fifth. As I think Proctor's gone up the inside. And Max Coates, in the meantime, I've seen him go off twice. He's had contact in one particular incident. So Max Coates not having a good run this time around, as it's three abreast as Marshall's up the inside of Proctor for P3. Has he got it? Yes, he has. Brilliant move there by Dave Marshall. But Senna Proctor going side by side as they run down towards the Kleine chicane. And yeah, now again, Marshall's lost out big time there. He's gone back behind Proctor and Salminen through into the Villeneuve chicane. Not through the Villeneuve chicane, the Kleine chicane, through the Sacrament Schelling, and then through into Buta, as Proctor again getting really, really racy there. You can just see how far these cars are leaning in as Senna Proctor goes a bit late breaky and locks up on the rear through the Villeneuve chicane. But this is allowing the likes of Marshall, Salmon and McIntyre, who won race one. And let's not forget, Martin, McIntyre's got the maximum power supplied.
He's having a great weekend, or great day, should I say. But just the way the cars are pitching and oaring, you can tell they're fighting with these things. They just don't want to go.
Oh, there's more. Yeah, there's more carnage now. That is Andy Mellors in the Teenage Cancer Trust liveried Honda Civic that's just dropped down to P12 from P10. As there's Proctor. Oh no, Omerod gets belted in the side by Salminen, and that allows McIntyre and Marshall to get through. And Salminen is side by side. That's Rob Butler alongside. Omerod drops down into P2. As, oh, this is not great. I hope the two teammates don't take each other out. Marshall around the outside of Proctor. Gets a bit wide going through to Stellenbach-Bocht and loses a couple of places. That's 2 places. Make that 3. Down from 4th to 7th in the blink of an eye. And Rob Butler again really getting racy. He said that the car was a bit understeery, but I think that ballast is actually helping the Hondas this time around. It's not hindering them whatsoever. Omerod back into P6 as a result of Marshall's off-track excursion at Stellenbach-Bocht. But again, just seeing this now as Senna Proctor being closed in by race 1 winner Jack McIntyre. This is what we wanted to see in the reverse top 10 grid race 2 here, wasn't it, Martin? We were waiting for a belter and we've got one.
Well, this is what we thought would happen. It's just I think the clerk of the course is going to be quite busy.
So in many respects, it's going to be. Oh no, Omerod again in the trenches. Rich Hayden is off. 3 wide coming through the middle of it. Alex Toth Jones ran to the outside. Oh no, Rich Hayden's had a bit of a tank slap. And was that due to contact from Kenny Press? Not too sure. But that is going to mean that the clerk of the course is going to be very, very busy post this race evening. But Senna Proctor still is holding on to second position ahead of Jack McIntyre.
Oh, another one off. Oh no.
That's Kenny Press. Kenny Press off from P10. So I'm wondering if there was a bit of a revenge play there. I'm not too sure, but that was right out of the corner of my eye. But it is all kicking off. Alex Toth Jones now up into P8. As Rich Hayden gets past Andy Mellors for position. Josh Stanton waiting in the wings as Mellors gets a bit of a tank slapper. Was there a little bit of a rub?
There was.
Too sure.
There's an awful lot of red mist on a clear day here. This is just...
Yes, and considering that the colour red is actually one of the Belgian national colours, that was Stanton going wide, and I think he lost the back end through Stellenbach-Bocht. So again, everyone's trying to trip all over each other, and Chris Smiley is not only leading by 11.2 seconds, he's got the fastest lap. So that is a huge help to his championship aspirations. I mean, he might have won.
I have to say.
I'm incredibly happy for him because it was very difficult to see him have the sim issues in the first race, but now he's like the cat that has got the cream of salmon and being chased and is being passed by Rob. Oh my goodness me, Rob Butler's gone past Salmon, and that was a brilliant move through Buta into the Villeneuve chicane, and he makes it stick.
Yeah.
Oh, that was sublime indeed. And Alex Toth Jones, I really have a feeling if he's very careful, he could get another podium if he's lucky.
He's just got to keep his nose clean in these next few, I suppose, next 5-10 minutes, 7 minutes. This isn't over. These guys are racing.
Yeah, and they do. Well, I think as Robert Duval said once in Days of Thunder, Robin's racing. Well, that's definitely more to the case of that as Salmon sends it up the inside into Butler, through into the chicane. Goes the Golf as Butler quickly on the switchback, and Senna Proctor, I think he's just waiting for the ringside seat as they come through the Jackie Ixbocht through onto the start-finish straight across the finish line. 11 minutes and 20 still to go. The action very plentiful here in the wonderful virtual Belgian sunshine here at Circuit Zolder. Salmonen still in P3, but he's now got a little bit of distance to claw down, considering the fact that he has got less ballast than Jack McIntyre, who's got the full 150 kilos applied to his Honda Civic as we're just under 60 seconds from half-time. But Senna Proctor trying to make it another MSL Motorsport Consultancy car as Toth Jones sweeps up the inside of Rich Hayden as Josh Stanton on the back bumper of the Audi is going side by side with the number 50. Hayden's got the inside run going through into the chicane. Oh, and loses it big time, I think, there. That was not what Rich Hayden wanted. He's gone off track. He's lost. That is probably going to be at least 4 to 5 positions. But Josh Stanton gets through. Meanwhile, Senna Proctor up the inside of Rob Butler, and that's for P4. And then with them is Dave Marshall, who has a little bit of a touch. Yeah, a touch between those two Hondas. And Luke Whitehead.
It's going to get messy.
Yeah, and the 21 Hyundai i30. I think you're very much your predictions were spot on as Butler goes up the inside of Proctor to retake P4. Side by side of the pair. Proctor runs a bit wide. Marshall goes rally crossing as Whitehead goes up the inside of him. But Alex Toth Jones is keeping his nose clean, like you very well said there, Martin. Stanton and Mellors and Smith battling over P9.
Great race. Well done, guys. Great racing.
Yep, that's very much the case as Jack McIntyre now is trying to close down the gap to Chris Smiley, and in the process has just put in the fastest lap of the race of 1 minute 38.895. So Smiley, if he wants to have a maximum haul for this particular race, he's got a very good opportunity of doing so. So
yeah, it's just been pegged back again. I think you were going to say that, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I think that's very much the case. I mean, McIntyre, even with 150 kilos of ballast, and Smiley has got 150 kilos less to worry about. So he hasn't got the partner or the wife and 2 kids in tow in the Hyundai. So we've had 2 DNFs already. Ryan Elliott's has called it a day, it looks like. He's had a problem. Paul Laramie has also retired from this race. So we are down to 17 competitors. Rounded out by Kenny Press and the Sol Peugeot. As Butler on the back bumper of Proctor. This is the battle for P4 yet again. Through the chicane they come. Very neatly done. Oh, now there was a little bit of a rub there, I think. So Butler was able to sort of gently nudge his way past Senna Proctor. He didn't sort of spit him out of a corner like we've seen with a couple of incidents, especially at Paul Ricard, with the fact that slightly wider track. But here at Zolder, as you very well said, Martin, that it was a case of just minding your P's and Q's and just keeping it nice and tidy there.
Yeah, definitely. Larry isn't here.
No, Larry is definitely not what you want, as it's nearly 3 abreast as Alex Toth Jones waiting like Sher Khan in the reeds in the Jungle Book. As that's very wide there for Whitehead. Toth Jones pounces and he takes 1 position. Is he going to go up into 6th by the start-finish line? He has, by literally absolutely nothing, and he's got the run through past the pair of them. Well timed by Alex Toth Jones up into P6.
Yeah, great timing, biding his time, being out of trouble, and I'm not going to say any more because the commentator's curse is lethal.
No, I'm keeping an eye on what's happening up and down the order. So looks like there's been several lap time improvements. Mikko Salminen, Rob Butler, Senna Proctor, Alex Toth Jones, Dave Marshall, Andy Mellors and Kenny Press have all made lap time improvements, so they've set their personal bests. Chris Smiley at the moment is a considerable distance ahead. They hustle it through, and that was a clear-cut jump. I think that was a Knight Rider. That was David Hasselhoff and Knight Rider kit in Knight Rider back in the 1980s, jumping over the chicane there from Luke Whitehead, and I'm sure that will be. I think he'll be accosted by the clerk of the course and race director Rich Hayden for that one. as Smith gets past Carroll for P13.
I thought I was watching Monster Truck for a second.
That's a very good analogy there, Martin. That's absolutely perfect. So I think we've got so many film references and TV show references. As I think Spinal Tap, and I'm going to bring a musical one, as Spinal Tap once said, let's crank it up to 11 on the volume.
Yeah.
That's definitely what we've got here in space here at Circuit Zolder. But Alex Toth-Jones doing a really, really good job. He's 1.8 seconds behind teammate Senna Proctor, who is still closing on Rob Butler for P4 at the moment. That's a really good battle. As Marshall and Whitehead, not that far, much distance between them, to be completely fair, as Alex gets a really good exit out of Stellenbach Bocht. There's Chris Smiley, the leader we now head to. 6 minutes to go plus an additional lap, and Chris has just romped away with it.
Yeah, he's driven it brilliantly. I'm going to say it again. Just fingers crossed for him. He's I was gutted for him in the first race not to be able to start on pole. He'd worked hard for the pole position, got it, past the field there, and he's just showing exactly what he could have done. I know that's it's no good for points, but just fingers crossed for the guy.
And it keeps him in very, very good shape for his new home, Accelerate Motorsport, for 2020 in the British Touring Car Championship, where he's partnering this man, Senna Proctor, in the number 18. And that is a really, really good combination, I think, that Accelerate have done. They've gone to the i30N Saloon as opposed to the hatchback. And it's great to see another manufacturer with the British Touring Cars, but also good to see Hyundai represented here in the Touring Car eSeries. Wouldn't you agree, Martin?
Absolutely, and the guys at Accelerator, they're a great bunch of professional motorsport enthusiasts. That's probably the best way I can put it. And they know what they're doing. So really looking forward to the Touring Car Championship this year.
Very much the case, which will start in early August, but at least in the meantime they can keep themselves match fit and shipshape and Bristol fashion ready for the off. So Senna Proctor still hounding Rob Butler for that 4th place position. Mikko Salminen still keeping ahead in the Golf, and that's the leading Golf, I might add. So it's Hyundai leading from Honda, Volkswagen, another Honda, another Hyundai with Alex Toth-Jones. Then it's another Honda with Dave Marshall in 7th position, who's trying to keep ahead of Luke Whitehead in one of the other Hyundais. And I think the other cars that we've got an Audi down in P10 thanks to Rich Hayden. And then we got also Kenny Preston, the sole Peugeot on the grid, who's got past. It looks like Josh Stanton's not been having a great day in the Accelerate 99 Hyundai, and he's back at the tail end of the field. There's Andy Mellors in 9th position as they fail to their way through this fantastic chicane. What a great angle here on the broadcast. As a bit of a run wide there for Luke Whitehead. So Mellors being closed in a little bit there, I think, by Rich Hayden, as Jack McIntyre still continues to hold the fastest lap of the race here at the reverse top 10 grid, race 2 here. And you can just see how much in the wars Max Coates has been. Poor guy. Windscreen absolutely shattered to pieces.
That's a great graphic again. I'm just looking at the timing things here, and it looks like the guys with the weight are really struggling now with the extra weight that they're carrying. And as the race go at 3 minutes to go plus a lap, this isn't over yet.
No, very much the case with Rob Butler and Senna Proctor, because you can just see how much understeer. He's trying to turn it in, he's trying to rotate the car there, and Senna Proctor is just powering out of the corner. He's got considerably less weight as Senna, probably about half the ballast of what Rob Butler has got at the moment. So I think Alex has done a really credible job with there we go. I think that's now side by side as Andy Mellors goes off. Andy Mellors goes off to the Lucien Bianchi Bocht, and Senna Proctor's made the move up into P4 ahead of Rob Butler. But I think really it's going to be a bit of a tall order here, Martin, that Senna's going to try and close on Mikko Salminen for the final step on the rostrum.
Yeah, that's a big gap really, unless he makes a mistake. 2.5 seconds, a couple laps. Well, it's never over till it's over. So that gap at the top is coming down.
Yeah, Probably not as much as Jack McIntyre would like, but I think with 150 kilos of ballast, it's a pretty standout performance here at Zolder for the Honda driver. Mikko Salminen having a very easy time of things, as he's got about a 2.8 second gap between himself and Senna Proctor, is now starting to pull away. The ballast is really sort of working in the favour of the slightly lighter cars, and Senna being one of them. It's very much the case, as Alex Toth-Jones is about less than a second adrift of P5, so it could be good for the...
This is going to be a couple of... the last couple of laps are going to be electric here. I think the tyres will be going off. Cars not wanting to go where they wanted them to go. Yeah, let's I'll keep quiet and let's get on with it.
Indeed, indeed. So, yeah, as very much the case that he's going to be doing what he can, Alex Toth-Jones, to move forward as such. So if Chris does win the race, I have been informed that due to no microphone, he won't be interviewed, but we will round out the interviews with the second and third place drivers here tonight. So obviously with the sim issues, I think he might have some... so he's got no microphone, so a big thank you to Simply Race for letting us know. Here's a move up the inside. That is Smith on the up the inside of Omrod for what is P12. We've got... just under 40 seconds remaining of this second and highly charged race here at the Virtual Reality Racing Club Touring Car eSeries, brought to you in association with MSL Motorsport Consultancy and HeatingShop.ie. So Chris Smiley looking to really put the cat amongst the ceremonial pigeons here as we count the timer down from 15 seconds plus an additional lap, and I'm just wondering where our leader currently is at the moment on the circuit as we get to see Isaac Smith once again, currently running at the top 12 positions. There's Luke Whitehead in 8th place, chasing down Dave Marshall. So the timer has now expired. And it's been a pretty convincing performance by Chris Smiley.
Yeah, to get it to over 11 seconds at one stage in the race, phenomenal drive. He just went for it.
So the timer has expired. We are effectively on the penultimate lap of the race, and when you see final lap under the scrolling timing screens at the top of your screens for wherever you're watching, if you're watching on your tablet, your smartphone or your laptop or desktop computer, thank you for joining us here at a virtual circuit Zolder this evening. So last lap that was put in by Chris Smiley was a 1 minute 39.2. Martin, he's just effectively on cruise control now, isn't he?
Yeah, his lap times have been very consistent. He's realised that he'd done what he had to do, broke away brilliantly, and just bring it home.
Touch wood, as they say. I think you've had your fingers crossed. I've been knocking on my desk, touching wood, so at least I know that we don't have that illustrious issue of a commentator's curse. But the main thing is there's been great action all the way through the two 20-minute races here at Circuit Zolder. And there is our leader, Chris Smiley, in the number 22 MSL Motorsport Consultancy Hyundai i30N TCE. And he is now going to go on to the final lap here at Zolder to conclude what's been a fantastic evening of racing. So into Erster for the final time, and then into the right at turn 2, Stellenbach Bocht. We're heading into Canal, and then Lucien Bianchi. And meanwhile, the other drivers, Senna Proctor, going as... Oh, now there's been a change for the fastest lap, and that has gone to Mikko Salminen, a 1 minute 38.087. So great work by the number 26 in the Gulf.
Yeah, great lap this late in the race.
And especially with the fact that the tyres will have dropped off through scrubbing and so much battling. Mikko running with the VXC racing team.
I think he's enjoying himself. He's got nobody in front of him really, and nobody behind him as such. So he's in clear air, and yeah, go for it. Have some fun.
Indeed, and that's exactly what Chris Smiley is having in plentiful supply as he comes through into the Villeneuve chicane for the final time before heading through Ter-Lammenbocht down the this incredibly nice, what I would call a mini back straight, so to speak, as we get some nice shots of down an in-car camera as well at some point. But then we go to Chris actually on the screen. Oh, bit of a contact there, and that's through. That's Dave Marshall being punted there, I believe, through by Luke Whitehead. I think that will definitely be investigated post-race. Not what you want on the final lap, and that will be under clear investigation, I think. It stands to the clerk of the course and the race director to decide what happens post this. But Chris Smiley takes the checkered flag and wins race 2 here at Circuit Zolder by a convincing margin. And congratulations to him. Jack McIntyre, first in race 1, second in race 2, and here from VRRC Racing Team, it is Mikko Salminen in the number 26 Golf. Senna Proctor makes it a 1-4 for MSL Motorsport Consultancy in 4th place, ahead of Rob Butler, and Alex Toth-Jones makes it all 3 Hyundai i30s from MSL in the top 6. Dave Marshall takes 7th ahead of Luke Whitehead. Rich Hayden and Andy Mellors round out the top 10. Then we have Isaac Smith, Max Coates, Harry Omerod, and we're going to have, it looks like Andy Carroll is going to round out 14th as John Cole has gone across the line in 15th, ahead of Kenny Press, Josh Stanton with Ryan Elliott and Paul Laramie rounding out the 19-strong grid with the bottom 2 unfortunately retiring. But Martin, what a way to conclude the action here at a virtual Circuit Zolder in Belgium.
What a great way to spend a Tuesday evening. I tell you, that was very good. Great entertainment. Well done, guys. And yeah, delighted for Chris Smiley. That was deserved. Jack McIntyre, all that weight. I missed his start really, but he didn't. He just absolutely, obviously nailed it. Yeah, very impressive, guys.
Great stuff. We'll get to our top 3 in just a moment. So bear with us. We'll be right back. With our second and third place finishers, Jack McIntyre and Mikko Salminen. Right, so we'll head to our last couple of interviews before we have a quick roundup of the action here at Circuit Zolder. And again, our second place finisher, finishing behind our winner in the number 22 Hyundai, Chris Smiley, is our race 1 winner, Jack McIntyre. Jack, 150 kilos of ballast. My question is, how on earth did you make that work?
Well, I think I only had about 70, so it was a bit of an advantage compared to everyone else. But yeah, to be honest, I don't really know. I just managed to get a really good cut through the pack as everyone was fighting, and yeah, just again got my head down once I was in clear air. I think I was catching Chris, but I think he probably had some pace in the pocket, because obviously he got the qualifying pole. So yeah, really good race. Chuffed with that.
Congratulations, Jack, and we'll see you next week on the 7th of July for Monza. Congratulations.
Thank you. Cheers.
Okay, and our final interview, we head to Mikko Salminen in the number 26 VRRC Racing Team Golf, who also, I might add, secured the fastest lap of race 2. Mikko, great job this evening. Wasn't the greatest race in race 1, but let's have a look at the positives. Just talk about your race in race 2.
Yeah, I had a really good start and really hard battles with, I think it was Senna and was it Butler?
Yeah, with Rob. So yeah, he was definitely looking very racy, even with a lot of ballast in that Honda.
Yeah, I think I had a really good advantage because I didn't have any ballast, so I was sitting on the straights, I was pulling away, and I was really slow at the first chicane, so they always catch me right there. But
And obviously looking ahead to Autodromo Nazionale di Monza next week, that's going to be a track that's really going to, hopefully, I feel, play into people's advantages, hopefully yourself as well, notwithstanding.
yeah, I hope so. I've never liked Monza, but let's see.
Well done, Mikko. Congratulations on your podium finish here at Zolder, and we'll see you next week in Italy.
Thank you.
Okay, last but by no means least, we're going to speak to the man behind the Virtual Reality Racing Club, Rich Hayden. Rich, really, really good to see you having some great battles in race 2, but another great race here, 2 races here at Zolder, and now we head to Monza, the the fantastic circuit in Italy next week. It's been a good two different rounds, 4 different race winners so far. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, hello. Interesting couple of races there. The ballast has really brought things down to a level playing field, hasn't it? It's really affecting the lead drivers, which we wanted to use some ballast to try and level the playing field, and it looks like it's done the job.
And also, we found that some drivers have been able to work with it, but then obviously with the cars being front-wheel drive, it has, in some cases, like we saw with Dave Marshall, having really good resurgence in both races, even though he was running with quite significantly high ballast. I mean, he had the maximum ballast for race 1, and so you thought, well, that's not going to put him in the possibility of winning a race or getting on the podium, but it's going to give him a shot at at least a top 6 or something like that. And he's proved that quite convincingly here. He's had I think a top 6 and a top 8 here tonight.
Look, Dave's a machine, right? So no matter what you put in the car, you could probably put another 150 kilos and it'd still get a result out of it. The guy's amazing. So no, but it's unfortunately I had a bit of a technical issue in race 1, which put me in the pit lane for the start. I think I managed to pull the fastest lap out in race 1. And then it was just a touring car banging the doors as we go through race 2, but all good fun.
Brilliant. Well, Rich, we're looking forward to seeing what happens in the Mini Challenge UK eSeries this coming Saturday with Richard John Neal behind the microphone. I know that I'm looking forward to it. I know Martin's looking forward to it, but thank you again for putting on this fantastic race evening, and we'll see you next week at Monza.
Thank you very much, and thanks to everybody that took part.
Brilliant. So we're about to close things off the evening here, and it's been a pleasure myself, Alex Goldschmidt, having Martin Jones alongside me from MSL Motorsport Consultancy. Martin, what can I say? It's just been brilliant racing all the way through. We've had incidents and accidents. We might have hints and allegations after the racing, but all in all, we can go to Monza next week with a big smile on our face and having 4 different winners from 4 different races so far.
Yeah, it's good for the sport, and I've thoroughly enjoyed it. It makes great entertainment, and whatever happens in the courtroom afterwards, well, we've had a good laugh watching it. So yeah, really enjoyed chatting with you, Alex, and thanks to the various sponsors and Tommy Touring Cars, brilliant. Thank you, VRRC, thank you, Michael Yo, brilliant guy. Without your patience and my lack of technical ability, it would have been a lot different. So thank you. Cheers, guys.
No problem at all. Thank you very much, Martin, and hopefully it'd be great to have you alongside me in the commentary box once again here on the VRRC Touring Car eSeries, brought to you in association with MSL Motorsport Consultancy and heatingshop.ie. Don't forget, you might have seen the calendar, there's quite a lot coming, and there's some great prizes in offer for our relevant champions. And a set of OBP Esports pedals for our champion. Our second prize will be a SimLab P1X chassis, a Fanatec SQ shifter for third, a Thurstmaster T-LCM for fourth, and a £100 Ebuyer voucher for fifth. The grids are full, but if you want to find out more about what Virtual Reality Racing Club can do for you in the sim racing world, head to virtualrealityracingclub.com. Don't forget, if you want to get the fantastic touring cars that we're using in this series, have a look a bit further back in the stream and see if you can get in contact with Tommy78. I'm sure that he will appreciate it. So let's pop up and see how you can find out about how you can get your hands on these touring car silhouettes. There we have it. Get in touch via the WordPress website that you've just seen on your screens, and get in touch with Tommy78 if you want these fantastic touring car silhouettes to use at your disposal. On behalf of myself, Alex Goldschmidt, and Martin Jones, your official commentators for round 2 of the 2020 Virtual Reality Racing Club Touring Car E-Series, thank you very much. Have a great evening. We'll see you in a week's time at Autodromo Nazionale di Monza. Goodbye.